So if you're just joining us, we're kind of smack dab in the middle of a game, so not a game, a work. And so I would recommend going and watching the other video to kind of see what we're doing. But basically the idea is we're trying to figure out who currently has these different parts, because we have a horrible job that's making us do this. And because of the way that the company has set it up, it's actually the one who's listed last. So I'm having to look for like Riku. So this person would be Riku. This is the person who has it. And the person who has this one is going to be Waka. And since I don't want to have to do this for 15,000 entries, I want to make sure that I can write some code to do it. So what we've got so far is we've figured out the last row, and we've been able to take the text that's here and then look for the last name that is, or where the name is appearing. So we can look for a specific name and see where it's appearing. But actually, we don't want to look for just a single name at a time. We want to search for all the different names. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have, and I actually wrote them all on a list over here on people. We have Titus, Yuna, Aaron, Waka, Lulu, Kamari, and Riku. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing those wrong. That's how I pronounce them in my head. Just got a deal. But so we want to go in here. We want to look for each one of these. So this is a really, really good opportunity to use a switch case statement. So if you've programmed in MATLAB, you know what a switch case statement is, or really in a lot of other languages will have a switch case. And just like all programming languages, Visual Basic has its own way of calling a switch case. So that's what we're going to do. So basically we're going to kind of do a for loop with a switch case and say, okay, for each one of these, so there's basically 7 names. So we want to go through each of the 7 names and figure out who the most recent person to hold something is, okay? So before the search string, so right around here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a for loop. I'm gonna go from 1 to 7 for, I'm gonna call this name list. I know, don't get mad. For name list equals 1 to 7. And again, it's going to get mad because I haven't defined name list. Name list is going to be an integer. I don't know why I called it name list if it's an integer. So I'm going to hit next. So we don't have a nice little auto indent function here. So I'm going to go ahead and manually indent these so that I can kind of see the structure of the code. So, or if there is, I don't know, somebody please tell me. So we have 4 nameless going from 1 to 7, and then blah, and then next. So in MATLAB, we might say end, or we might have like little colons here. But again, this is more like programming for business majors, so they're actually using words. So 4 nameless going from 1 to 7, next. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to do a switch case. So for each case, I want to give it a different name to look for. Now, Excel doesn't call it switch case, they call it case select. Sorry, I mean select case. So we're going to select case, and we're going to select case based on, thank you, name list. All right, so in the case that we are at a 1, then let's make our search string be Titus. That'll be the first one we look for, because that's just the order in which we happen to have them listed. So Titus, Yuna, Aaron, Waka, Lulu, Kamari, and Riku. So before I get too excited, let me go in here and make sure I end the select. And actually, I'm going to end the select up here. All right, so I'm just going to move this over. So for each one of these cases, I've got case 2. The search string is going to be Yuna. I can't spell. And then I'm going to put the rest of them in. All right, so those are the things I'm going to look for. So again, I'm going to go through starting at cell C2, and I'm going to go through all 7 of these and look for it, and it's going to report the position. Now, before I run this, I'm actually on the wrong sheet. So there's a way to always tell it to be on the raw data sheet, but if you want to just go ahead and get back to the right sheet and not have to worry about that right now so you don't kind of get caught up in unnecessary details, we can do that. So I'm going to move it over there, and I'm going to run. So here's the text. So it found Titus at 258, and then the next one at 0 because it wasn't present. then wasn't present, 192, 107, 0, 42. All right, so the 258 is obviously the one we want to stick with. So how would we know that? Okay. So what we want to do is we want to keep track of the max position. All right, so we want to keep track of the max position. And if anything is bigger than the max position, update it with the new value, right? So basically the idea would be something along the lines of if the name position, I can't spell, is greater than the current max, I'll call it current max, then, come here. Then we want to do something, and then we want to end our if statement. And I like how it capitalizes it, but it doesn't indent it correctly. All right, so if we want our name position, if our name position is bigger than the current max, then we want to do something. So what we want to do is we want to update the current max. The current max will now be the new name position. Kind of get it? Kind of get it? All right, so we want to update that. The other thing that we would want to do is we would want to put the name into the box off to the right. Now the box off to the right is going to be cell D2. So what we want to do is we want to change the value of D2 to the name that we're currently looking for. And the way we would do that is you're going to say the range at D2, value, no, not validation, the value is going to be equal to the search string. Make sense? So if it finds something that is greater than the current max, then I know I've got something missing, so don't freak out. I'm doing it on purpose. It's a pedagogical strategy. So we are going to update the current max with the position, and then we're going to put the search string in. So actually, I don't like the fact that we're looking for Titus and getting Titus first. So let's go ahead and look at Una. So let's look at cell 3. I'm just going to change this to a 3. You don't have to if you don't want to. And I'm going to change that to a 3 so we can kind of see what's happening. All right. Okay, so it's immediately going to get mad at me because the variable is not defined. Okay, I can fix that. So I've got to come up here and I'm going to dim current max as integer. The other thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure to initialize the value of current max to 0. Now, Visual Basic, I think, does this anyway, but it's super weird because sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. And this is what happens, but it won't. What's funny is it won't actually error out if you never define it. So just to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do, I'm going to go ahead and define it right now. So now I'm going to go ahead and run it, and it's going to go doobie doobie doo. That's the text I'm looking at. Titus is a 134. So it won't let me run up there. Titus is a 134, then I have a 163, 264, 0, 0, 70, 208. Okay. So actually I want to kind of show you this. I want to show you what's going on. So you don't necessarily have to do this, but I'm going to go to range.c3 select, not range.c3, range C3 select, just to kind of show you what's happening. I'm going to delete, see, it works. It was very anticlimactic. Okay, so it is going to work, but I want to show you what's happening. So I'm going to hit play. All right, so there's the text I'm looking at. So right now it's looking for Titus, and Titus returns a 134, which is greater than the current max. So notice it now says Titus. Now the next thing it finds is 163. So since it's looking for 163, it's greater than the current max. It's going to update the name again. Then it finds a 264, which is again the bigger number. So it's going to put an R on. Then it finds a 0. It doesn't find the next name. It doesn't find the next name. It does find the next name, but now this number is smaller, so it doesn't update the name. 208 is also still smaller than that 260, whatever. So the number stays the same. So it stays there with R on. So we do have something that actually works, which is super exciting. Now we just have to get this to go ahead and work for all of the cells that we have in the range, from like 2 to 46 or 2 to 1500 and whatever. So I'm going to put that in a separate video for you guys.